You are now listening to Rings Kings Boxing World Flash Report.
All right, Big Q in the building for this episode of Ring Kings Boxing, man. Hit the like button as we join in. Hey, man, let's talk about this one, man. This is the Tank and Jake Paul fight. Now, this fight has already been talked about ad nauseum. A lot of people have given their responses about it. Me personally, I think it's a stupid fight. I think it's ridiculous, but this is what boxing has come to when guys, no disrespect to Jake Paul, they're not professional boxers. They're YouTube boxing with controlled and script fights. If that's what real fighters got to do to fight non-pro fighters to get a payday, man, the sport is really taking a tumble, if you ask me. This fight makes no sense. This guy looks like Gervonta Tank Davis, this ridiculous. You know, it's a ridiculous fight. That's why the fights were set up with weight classes to prevent this sort of thing. Even though some of these fighters might spar with these guys in the ring, that's something different than you actually seeing this type of thing take place. It's almost as silly as the fight that Mike Tyson had with Mayweather. If Mayweather really wants to fight somebody close to him to prove his greatness, go fight Terrence Crawford and make it count. Stop doing the exhibition, go fight Terrence Crawford. But we'll cover that on another episode of Ring Kings Boxing. But what's interesting, man, is that this fight here is Tank Davis and Jake Paul. And the rationale for doing the Jake Paul fight was what Kelvin Ford said, that Roach was a nobody. He defends Gervonta taking Davis skipping the rematch for a $40 million exhibition fight with Jake Paul. And some people, me personally, I love the sport, man. But to me, I can understand a guy trying to get his paper. But man, just get the belts up and go do what you want to do, man. If you feel like boxing is boring and all that, they always talk this stuff about boxing being boring, but don't want to turn in none of the stuff that they got, the belts and none of this kind of stuff. Turn it in and go fight exhibition. But I think this is not a good thing. I ain't no disrespect to Jake Paul. I just think anytime you're a real fighter and you're fighting YouTube fighters, I think the game went to a place. It's in that sunken place. The damn game is in the sunken place when we're doing this sort of thing. But anyway, $40 million over legacy. Davis has got a big fish to fry with a $40 million exhibition fight against Jake Paul, middle November of this year. In Miami, Florida. That's money Tank wouldn't get fighting Roach, who isn't a big name and would be hitching his ride or his coattail to a second time if he blessed him with the rematch. Tank made him famous, says Kelvin Ford. Tank, everybody he fights, he makes famous. Roach was a nobody before he fought him. He was a world champion. Kelvin fight. Now listen, I'm going to play this interview by Kelvin Ford. I got all the respect in the world for Kelvin Ford, but you're doing a little capping, bro. At some point, Gervonta Tank Davis was not a well-known commodity. You know, he was a guy that was good when he was a lot younger, but over time, he started gaining a name for himself. Even though he had some really good openings later on, he wasn't a super famous fighter. Now, Lamont Roach being a nobody has nothing to do with how he fought Tank Davis. A nobody handled Tank Davis like that. Don't make any sense. But I anticipate Kelvin doing this sort of thing because he's going to get paid. So he's going to acquiesce to whatever Tank Davis tells him to do. But Lamont Roach is a fighter who fought a really good fight, and a nobody really beat him. He actually really won that fight, in my estimation. Him talking about he had some crap in his eyes, that was a bunch of BS. But in the end, if he handled business the correct way, then wanted to go take care of Jake Paul, that's one thing. The way he lost that fight, the way he won the fight, whatever. The way the fight happened, I think it was a draw. The way the fight happened, at the end of the day, he should have came back and rectified the wrong. His mentality of not wanting to get back in the ring and show Lamont Roach what time it is was curious to me. But instead, I'm going to fight this guy for $40 million and whatever else in the hell too if you don't like him. I just think it's a poor look for people. But let me put on Kelvin Ford. This is what Kelvin Ford had to say. Talking about Lamont Roach is a nobody. Lamont Roach is not a well-known fighter. He isn't. But look how he handled Tank Davis's ass in that fight. What you got to say about that, Kelvin? First and foremost, man, you're going to fight Jake Paul in his venue. He's not coming to you. If you going to him to get money, it's his rules. It's his damn rules. If you don't like that, bring him over into the boxing world. See, that's the thing. You can't make all these things. If he don't want to fight, then go ahead on about your business and go fight real fighters. This man got it set up where he has it set up where he has his own little boxing situation. is very successful. He's making more money than some of these pro fighters is. He is handling his business. So whatever he says goes. You're not getting $40 million paydays for one fight, anyway. And most of the times, you're not going to make $40 million a fight. You're not. Sometimes it's not about the money. You're going to get paid. You're going to get paid less. I mean, he gets paid less for fighting Lamont Roach, but Lamont Roach is a real fighter. He's a real fighter. And I mean, how many fights have Tank Davis had over the years? How much fucking money does he need? I mean, this is the thing. You can't make all of these demands of Jake Paul and you going into his arena to fight his way, his rules. That's how it goes. So, and Kelvin, I hear what Kelvin said. Yeah. And then he gets into talking about Lamont being a nobody and all this, but weren't they all nobodies at one point? Weren't, including you, Kelvin? You wasn't, in the fight game, maybe when you were in the street, when you came out of the jail, you kind of did your thing. But at some point, weren't we all nobodies? So not to disparage the man, but in the end, I think it's foolish. I think it's a fool. I think it's very foolish to do this type of stuff. But if you want to fight him for $40 million, it's going to be his way and only his way. So all this other stuff is simply what it is. And let's finish up what Kelvin was talking about here when he mentioned, he urged Lamont Roach to make his own way. And Lamont Roach he's fighting Pitbull Cruz, who also took Gervonta Davis to the wire. So you have both of these fighters that's pushing for the wire, and they're supposed to fight December the 6th. And I'm expecting that to be a good fight, Lamont Roach versus Isaac Pitbull Cruz. Understandable, Gervonta Davis isn't interested in fighting Roach again. It's a risky fight that won't bring in the kind of money he can get fighting these other guys. But Jake Paul is not a real fighter. No disrespect for Jake Paul, but you got Paul up here with Shakur Stevenson, Teofimo Lopez, Ryan Garcia, and Devin the Dream Haney. Jake Paul is not he's not a professional fighter. He's a YouTube fighter, with his own rules, his own ways of doing things. Now, he fought some fighters that was over the hill, but if Jake Paul leaves today and goes into pro boxing, which he won't do because he's not going to make that type of money, I don't think, like we talked about some time ago, Tank said that he had a certain amount of fighters that he was going to fight before he retired. Shakur Stevenson was on that list. Devin Haney was supposed to be on that list. You guys let me know what you think about it at the end. I just think it's a bunch of horse shit. Watching Tank Davis fight Jake Paul. And the shit ain't real. Anyway, it's just a joke, man. Boxing has gotten to a place where it's an absolute joke, man, where the exhibition fights mean more than the real fights, when the fake is real and the real is fake. How about that? That's where the fuck we is right now in the boxing world. Y'all put y'all comments in the section below. And I understand people got to get paid, man. But at some point, shouldn't the sport be over boxing? Aren't we supposed to be boxing, having the fights that we wants to see? Nobody wants to see Tank Davis fight Jake Paul. It's a stupid ass fight. It doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, with that being said, I'm going to get on up out of here. I appreciate y'all. I'm going to holler at you on the next one. Peace. I'm out.
Subscribe now and make Ring Kings Boxing your source for all the latest fight news.